Welcome, everybody. On today's episode, we have Colin Chartier, who is a breath and wellness coach and a former professional triathlon athlete. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And Colin, I'll hand it off to you.
Cool. Thanks, Phil, for having me on your podcast. Happy to be here. And we met a few weeks ago at a breathwork event, actually. I was leading breathwork classes in the sauna. So, maybe we could just start there. I started doing breathwork coaching at Traverse Fitness at this gym and in a sauna. So 16, 20-person saunas. And then we do leading through breathwork in the sauna. And it's really marketed as performance breathwork. So improving VO2 max, improving lung capacity, improving red blood cells with breath holds, improving mitochondria. So we got the combination of heat exposure, also did cold plunging, so cold exposure, plus apnea training, which is what a lot of freedivers are using to improve their breath holds. And then there's tons of benefits with breath holding. So the classes are actually, I put the work part in breathwork. They're not easy. They're not easy classes.
Yeah, I remember straining through, especially that sauna part where it was a pretty hot sauna in there and working through just the breaths, but it was actually the thing that kept me in there for that long because I believe the duration was about 20 minutes. We were in there doing breath work with this group, and yeah, it was something that just was the thing. It was like, oh, this is rising up in me, but then we'd do the breath and it'd fall back down. So
Yeah.
It was really fascinating seeing that, how it actually affected me and impacted me in that way too, just to be like, no, even though I feel my nervous system wanting to heighten, it's like, oh, I need to take flight from here. Get out
You feel your heart like pounding in your chest. Yeah.
But with the breath work, just being able to lower that back down. So diving a bit more into that, I'm curious of how you came across breath work and like where this journey took you towards becoming a breathwork coach and a wellness coach.
Yeah, I would say it's an interesting story, long story. Now I've been doing breathwork for about a year and a half as a coach, doing classes and doing retreats and doing one-day events. But, fast forward 2 years ago in 2023, I had this major life transition from being a professional triathlete into the unknown. I had no idea what I was doing next. And that all started pretty much when I was 13, at 14 years old. I was a swimmer in high school, and then one of my buddy's moms did Ironmans. And so my buddy was like, hey, let's do a sprint triathlon. And then that's what got me started. But my dreams and ambitions were always to be like a swimmer, like a very good swimmer, D1 level. I had Michael Phelps on my wall growing up, it was just like, that's where I want to go. And I really fought, like I didn't have talent. I always started off in the slow lane and just slowly worked my way up through more training and hard work and showing up every day. And that got me to a place where I finished high school. I'd done some triathlons and had good success there. But I was still like, I'm a swimmer. So I took a year off out of high school, took a gap year just to join the best team in the nation at the time, which was NCAP out there, Baltimore, Virginia, DC area, and like really committed to just swimming. And I was still doing like a little bit of triathlons, some biking, mountain biking, working in a coffee shop, working in a bike shop, still doing a lot during, I was 18 years old, but I was committed to just training. And I trained like a machine. I was doing 8 to 10,000 yards a day in swimming. So, you look at that, that's 5 to 6 miles a day, and we're swimming 6 days a week, and I'm doing strength training, and I was also running and biking. And so I was just like absolutely destroying myself with this goal of like, I want to be recruited D1 school. Like I want to get my times fast enough to be able to make it. For me, that was like making it. And basically I trained so hard, I got pneumonia right before the December championship meet. And that was like the meet that you needed to hit the times. And so I swam the meet with pneumonia, and yeah, it was terrible. It was just like headache, fevers, terrible. And from that point on, like I was just like done with swimming. And I kind of realized because I was swimming with Katie Ledecky on some of the weekend practices, and she would just lap me. I mean, she's like the best swimmer, the best female swimmer ever, broken all the personal best in distance freestyle and IM and so many different events. But at the time, I didn't know that. She's just like this girl who could kick my butt. It made me question, like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not a swimmer. Like, I'm 5'8". I mean, I don't have size. I'm not Michael Phelps. I don't have size 13 feet. You know. So I realized then, like, I just came into reality of like my body. Like, I'm not designed to be a fish, a swimmer. And that's when I was like, okay, like I don't know what to do now because my whole focus was gone. And then I just got a call out of the blue from Marymount University. It was the first varsity triathlon team in the US for universities. So they had scholarship, they had funding, they had a coach, we had a team. We traveled to races. So that was very awesome. I mean, it was the first year ever, and it was that they had it, and the school was only 40 minutes away from home. So I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. And triathlon then became the main focus. Maybe it's because I just wanted to be good at something. I wanted to be, the best. And triathlon gave me that outlet where I was better already than swimming. I'm not sure. But that's what set me up to go to school. So I took that 1 year off to 4 year school, really focused on training. I was like a machine. I went to bed at 8 p.m. every day. Woke up early, meal prepped. I did classes, all the workouts, races. Became pro. I think my sophomore year, I had my elite, pro card for triathlon. And then that was a big shock going from competing collegiately into the pro ranks. It's just like a whole nother level of intensity, especially in the water as a swimmer. Like in my first race, I just got destroyed. People like pushing your head under, you're getting stuck and you're trying to breathe, but then there's another body on top of you. So then you have that panicky feeling. And that like really, that experience made me scared for a while to get over that fear. Because the next race start after that, I was super timid and like backed off from, pushing myself out there. So anyway, I committed to was trying to qualify for the Olympics through Tokyo. I was like sixth ranked in the US and only the top two ranked went. And Tokyo went from 2020 to then during COVID to 2021. And then that was my transition. I kind of dipped my toes into long course, which is the half Ironman series at the end of 2019. That's when at the end of the year, I was like, oh, I'll do a race in half Ironman Cartagena. Got a Facebook Marketplace, triathlon bike because they're different bikes, these different leagues. And a week before the race, I was there in Colombia and like crashed on the bike. And this collarbone is sticking out. And so I was like, okay, someone saw me, helped me, brought me back. Then got x-rays and they're like, it's broken. And then saw some other doctors who had some friends there and they're like, no, it's not broken. It's just dislocated. So they just kind of like shoved it back in it was super painful, got me up with anti-inflammatories. And they're like, yeah, you could race. I was like still in like a sling. Like I can't even, I'm in the water trying to swim. I can't even swim. Yeah, for a couple of days I was in the sling and I would take the sling off for the water. I was just trying to see if I could get that range of motion. So I wasn't sure. It was also Thanksgiving. I was like, I could go back home. And I ended up the night before the race being in the pool. I was like, oh, I can take a stroke. Like I couldn't like produce a lot of power, but just to go through this mind of like, can I race? Can I not? I don't know. What should I do? Is my body going to hold up? And I ended up doing the race. I actually came out first of the water, even with the bum arm. And then I just put my head down on the bike and I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't done a race that long. I just treated it kind of like an Olympic distance race and just committed to going all out. And I ended up having this huge lead on the bike. It was me and this one other guy out there. And then I ran in to win on the first half Ironman. So even then, another point where I was like, oh, like I'm much better at this longer stuff than the shorter stuff. Where I was competing with athletes that had personal best times in the 13 minutes for 5K. Like, and I was never that. Like in high school, I ran a 16-minute 5K, and then I got down to like a 15-minute 5K. And I'm competing against guys that are personal best at, near Olympic level standards, Olympic trial standards. So I always had that, like, I'm not good enough in the short course. Like I don't have the talent. I didn't have but I had the commitment to training that actually favors going to the longer races.
Wow. So you kind of find your niche of wasn't so much of the shorter distances, it wasn't so much of just swimming, it was a mixture of things in a longer duration, longer formats than the shorter things like 5K.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So yeah, finding what you're good at in life, right? Like
Yeah.
I think at least the way I did it was I just commit to whatever I wanted to until it didn't work out, and then the next door opened. Yeah, it was the stubbornness, really.
Yeah.
I think that's the case with all triathletes, right? Like we're not necessarily at all the best swimmers. I don't know why, but triathletes were never like the best swimmers, were never the best cyclists, and we're never the best runners. Because if we were the best at any of those, we'd be in those sports. And so I think a lot to do, at least with me, has to do with identity and belonging, especially
Mm,
like if your identity is an athlete, right? Like you want to be the best, you want to be good, you want to, believe that you can be your best
yeah.
and explore that. But the really like the subconscious layer is that it's because we believe we're never good enough. And so we have to prove we are good at something. I mean, at
Yeah.
least that's for me. That's for me. And but yeah, that's where triathlon, I went far from 2021 to 2022 and into 2023. I started to like rank up and do bigger races, do Ironmans, and eventually became 11th in the world and winning some of the biggest races in the 2022 season, including the US Open, which was like, yeah, one of the biggest races at the time.
Wow.
But even then, I won the race, and I was still like, oh, I'm training for the World Championships. So I crossed the finish line. I was like, yeah, it was good, but like, I'm ready to train for the World Championship. Like, I couldn't even celebrate any victories, no matter how big or small, because it was still, there's always more.
Yeah. So that mindset was got to keep pushing, got to keep going. Even though I've reached the top of this mountain, I'm not going to stick around and enjoy the view. I'm going to find the next biggest mountain.
Yeah, yeah. And there
Yeah.
was this time like this, like I had to do it now. Like I don't know why. Even still today, I catch myself. It's like I have to do it now. Like there's a rush, an expectation of like an internal one that's motivated me to do stuff now and not like be patient. But yeah, at the end of in the spring of 2023, I then got noticed that I got suspended. I failed the doping test. So then, and I was using the EPO, which I got tested positive for. It's a blood booster.
Hmm.
And so that I basically had a month from where I learned they gave me the notice, and then a month of where it went live. And I was still like in Boulder, and I was like trying to organize things. It's like, how am I gonna, logically, like I want to tell my family in person,
Right.
try to do that. We went back to like Spain, Girona to like clean up things before the news came out. Like I had bikes there, I had a car to sell, like in Spain, and then could, consolidate life, I guess. But then when the news hit, I mean, I was alone in Colorado at the house, and I basically had like shakes and chills, and I felt sick, and like physically, I was being attacked. But it wasn't at all physical. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it was all mental.
Yeah.
It's wild to experience that, like the hormones, cortisol, everything, the fight or flight, is being activated. It's
Just
crazy.
purely through mental faculties.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And no, I mean, I understand it. I mean, when you're at that level, trying to keep pushing, find the edge of yourself, keep going. And that was also, he said, if I remember correctly, when we were talking earlier, that was one of the first years that they started testing for that or just started testing on that level. Is that correct?
for their, so the PTO, we don't need to get into that, but their own system of testing. It's like there's all these organizations, right? And
Yeah.
they're trying to bring unity in testing to everything. But then they're like, hey, but like we're gonna do our own internal testing, we're gonna do our own internal testing, and we're gonna have our own, everyone wants to have control of that. But yeah, this organization just didn't have their things in control at all.
Mm. Yeah.
But there's WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, United States Anti-Doping Agency, the ITA, International Testing Agency. And so it was actually the ITA that tested me. And so you're kind of entered into different pools. There's a lot of bureaucracy and whatever flow of different
Yeah.
control entities with doping. But yeah, I actually had interviewed. The ITA flew me to Switzerland actually for
Mm.
just a sit down conversation in the hotel, in the airport coffee shop. So there was like, they point blank were like, you can get a 1 year silent ban if you are attached with this other group that we're trying to get. And I wasn't. I was close with them, but I wasn't involved in that. So I mean, that's what they're trying to. There's a lot out there. We don't need
Yeah.
to talk about that, but
Yeah.
I could do a whole podcast on world
No,
anti-doping and the loopholes they have, and that actually like silent bans are totally allowed in the World Anti-Doping Code of Ethics or the code.
and a silent ban, I assume, is just something where they don't push out the announcement. It's just you don't
Yeah, you just
race
can't
for.
compete for a year,
Yeah.
and then now, and they gave me examples of other people who were serving that, and like, yeah, they just, or people who just retired. They
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it's prevalent, to see that what we see in the media and on TV, like, is not reality.
Yeah.
It's an illusion to keep
Yeah.
the image of sport a certain way, because at the end of the day, it's a business and there are stakeholders.
A lot of optics perceptions out there, and no, that's why I wanted to ask the sidebar question. A bit of that too is to explain that in the sports world too, that there's a lot more happening we
A lot more.
perceive and know, and also what's happening in the athletes themselves to push to do that, because there's a lot of also extreme negativity towards it, that and
Yeah,
lack of
yeah, for
understanding
sure.
that there's, when we're pushing ourselves, we're trying to get to points to compete, to push our bodies beyond limits, and the stress behind it, the mindset, the pull to do it, to, I mean, just not even anything around that area, just to go to these extremes, because it's like, hey, maybe there's something inside I want to touch into or just feel within my own
Yeah,
body.
yeah. Yeah, I think at a certain point at all sports, like at the highest level, everyone is extreme. You have to be extreme.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why? I remember always talking to my mom, I was like, oh, wouldn't life be so easy if I was just happy being like a normal job? But like, I don't have that in me. So, I mean, there is some nature, some conditioning, whatever it is, of extreme to be at that level. Because, life is a lot easier if you don't try to go to the Olympics or win
Yeah.
gold. Life is much easier. But we wake up every day and we choose to do those crazy things to our bodies and just destroy our bodies. I mean, had, I don't know, 7 stress fractures from running. I've had so many injuries, to overcome.
Yeah.
And none of those were like, they're like, oh yeah, just get over this. I mean, keep doing it. It's like we don't learn our lessons. We're just like, oh yeah, broke one bone, just keep going.
Yeah. And pivoting more on that point too, and I really appreciate you sharing this too so openly, is when this world blew up for you, when that was hit, because you were trying to push and go beyond and in these components they were just talking about, was that the opening, the opportunity that was also presented to you? So when this controversy came out, when all this was out, and now you're back to, in Boulder alone, having all these things going down this mental path, what was the parts from there that was to say that started to change in you from this?
I'd say immediately nothing changed. The only thing I was like, how do I get out of here? How do I have some separation from this world of triathlon? Because
Yeah.
that's all I knew. I mean, I was so in the in the circle. Like when you're in the triathlete, like all your friends are there, everything you know is there. The only people you care about are the triathletes. And so I was still very much stuck in that world. And I just wanted to escape, really. And the first thing on my mind was cycling. Cycling as a kid growing up was like my home area where I felt I could go explore, felt safe. Actually would like skip school in high school and go biking. My mom would let me go biking training. So it's like, that opened my eyes early on. And so I was just like, yeah, I'll just jump on my bike and like head down to Argentina. Mapped out like, okay, like in 2 weeks, I just did all the research on YouTube and online. It's like, this is what I need. Okay, like this is how much, I can plan to be biking a day. And then here's like how many days I'll spend in each country. So I had this like idea, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm like, I have certainty where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to go. I have everything I need. And then just took off. But that was actually, I drove out to California. Yeah. So my older brother's out there. And then I spent some time with them, my brother and sister-in-law. And then from there, I took off because I wanted to hit Baja. So I head down through San Diego, all the way down Tijuana, down to La Paz. And that was probably the roughest part, starting that journey. I had a basically injury from training that was still there. I had a couple bulging discs that causing numbness, sciatica on my right side. And on day one, I had this, new saddle, new bike, and that saddle caused like a saddle sore, basically a cut, a lesion underneath where you sit on the saddle. That was about an inch long. And so from day one, I was already in tremendous pain, psychological pain, physical pain. And I remember those first like 2.5 days getting to LA from Mammoth. Those were hard. It was like already hot and there's headwinds and there's, saddle sores and bleeding and there's numbness, and got to LA, visited some friends, and then kept going. The part from basically LA down to La Paz was 7 days. I think it was over 1,000 miles. And I was just all day. I mean, cry at night, think about life, everything on the day, all day, just like completely processing. Like, how did I get here? What is going on? Like, this is, not where I thought I'd be. This is not where, my values are. How did I get here to this point? And I just ran myself ragged. I biked, 12 hours a day, camped on. I didn't sleep anywhere other than camping on the side of the road for those 7 days. So it was just like filthy. Wear the same shirt. It's just like soaked.
Yeah.
Putting that in the morning is just like, pain is like my relationship with pain. I realized that was a big part about my sport and triathlon. Like it was from an early age, it was like, oh, I just push more pain, I'll get better. Like that was my whole ethos. So for many years, like I was taking tramadol, prednisone, other kind of painkillers to train, to work out harder. And so even on this bike ride, like I'm in so much pain. I was like, I'll just take tramadol so I can keep biking. And I got to La Paz and I didn't realize like how tired I was until I had to stay at a hotel and go up the stairs. And I was just like, I can't go up the stairs. But I also couldn't sit still. I ended up having like an unexpected delay with the ferry schedule. And so I was stuck for like 2 extra nights and I could not, like, I was just like, so much in me was like, I need to go. Like this is, I'm behind schedule. I'm not making forward progress. And I was still very much stuck in physically like needing to move forward to meet a goal and an objective to get to Argentina by this date. And that's exactly what drove me in triathlon, was like that stuckness of like, I have to hit this goal, to be like, and I didn't know why. I don't know why I had to hit that goal. But that's really what kept me driving. And I didn't break. I mean, the whole cycling bikepacking trip was about 5.5 months. And that was really the thing. Like I knew it was an internal trip, even though it was a very physical one, by all means, when you're biking 100 plus miles a day and going up 18,000 foot volcanoes and doing adventures. Because that's what I love. Like that's for me is play. But the sticking to like this set thing, this path that I thought I had to do, right? That's what I broke during that bike trip. And the breath work was part of that journey. The whole journey was me like figuring out, basically the whole system I had is broken. How do I reinvent? Like, how do I reinvent myself? And I had this, betterhelp.com therapist. She was from the UK. Like, I tried everything. I got to be on the side of the road in El Salvador, FaceTiming her. She'd be like, "Where are you? What country are you in this today?" She encouraged me to journal, which I was like, yeah, I can't journal. You can't even sit down with my thoughts. Nothing. I don't even know how to put whatever's in here on a paper. Like, I don't know how to feel. I don't have the language to even know how to put that on paper. So then I was in Nicaragua, so I made it there about almost 2 months into the journey. That's the first time where I was like, okay, I broke the calendar. Because somebody came up to me and was like, hey, do you want to do a breathwork retreat? It's this weekend, it's 3 days. And I'd already met some other bike packers serendipitously because like this guy I met in Guatemala, his bike, one of my best friends in DC built and for him. And so I didn't even know this guy, but now we're connected. And that guy, Phil, who built his bike, had texted me the day before I met him. So it's really just crazy, that we're all there. And I started to pay attention. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll stay. Because they were encouraging me to be like, why are you rushing? Like, where are you going to? Like, you don't have anything to go back to, which is true.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have like a job. I didn't have anything like, but I was like, I need to be here.
Yeah. You were at that place where just like, I'm in my darkness. I'm going through it.
Yeah.
You're exploring yourself. You're finding what's there inside.
And I was still letting go.
Yeah.
Letting go of control, right? Because, I can control a schedule. I can control a timeline. I can control, right? This is me like controlling an outcome. So I'm still holding on to that. But in Nicaragua, this breathwork retreat, I was like, okay, I'll stay. I'll break my schedule first time. I'll allow myself to be here. And then one of the breathwork sessions, which was like a holotropic or somatic breathwork, it included like jumping up and down, included laying on your back, doing a lot of hyperventilation. That was insanely powerful. I mean, I was laying down and I was sweating buckets.
Wow.
And I was like, feeling constriction, a lot of moving energy through my nervous system. I didn't know what I was feeling, but during that about 3 hour session, like childhood memories came up, trauma, whatever. Like I never thought I had trauma, but all that stuff came up, guilt, shame, different things. And when I finished that session, I was completely light. Like I felt light, felt like that burden was lifted and I was hopeful. And I was like, wow, there's, a cloud is lifted.
Incredible.
And so I knew that moment and then I'd met another guy on this, in this hostel that basically spent his days meditating for 10 hours a day. And he was super happy and he was just filled with joy. And it was like, wow, how you have all this happiness and joy and you do nothing. And I do everything and I don't have, the happiness and joy. Like I'm doing it to try to be happy or joyful and fulfilled. And he's doing nothing and he is. And so we kind of traded superpowers. I sat with him for a day and I was like, wow, my narrative always in my head is I have nothing. I'm looking around at other people. They have, wives and houses and cars and all these things and success. And it's like, I have nothing. And he was like, no, dude, you have everything. Like, look around you. Look at all the experiences you've had. You have all of this nature on a volcano, sunset. There's all these people who have come around me and I've met on this trip. And so it's just that actual belief. It's not a mental thing, but it's actually a belief. That's like, oh, I have nothing. The lack versus the scarcity mindset versus actually feeling the abundance. So he taught me that, which was life-changing. And then in return, I was like, okay, well, it's time for you to start doing stuff in the world. What good is it to be full of joy and abundance and have all these amazing gifts if you don't use them for the world? And so we went and hiked up that volcano. They'd been there for like 4 months wanting to climb. At 4 a.m., I was like, we're going to get up and we're going to go up. And so he felt empowered. And within a few weeks, he left that place in Nicaragua and started to go do things. It was an amazing trade. Like that 1 week I spent there completely changed the rest of the trip.
Incredible. Incredible. And I appreciate you sharing your story, brother. I know from places of where we were and pushing self beyond, like physically pushing ourselves beyond limits, trying to feel like we have to accomplish, get something done, do this, push, 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 push. Very similar to a lot of things that are happening in the world now until our world collapses from whatever it may be. And we are forced to face what's inside.
Yeah.
And depending on how long and how much we push away from these things, from the depths of inside of us, the depths of our own soul, a lot of times it feels like the harder the fall.
Yeah.
But all these parts inside of you, what you discovered on your incredible journey and the things that it needed to unfold, to find these parts and these gifts to say, how can I view beauty in the world now? How can I view beauty inside of myself through that bit of breath work, through that incredible journey you took all the way down to, I think you ended up in Colombia too, if I remember.
Yeah.
Part of that story too.
Colombia.
Another part, yeah. Because it was all these different countries, but it seemed like as you were working your way down, you actually were working yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And to see that journey unfold just makes me so incredibly appreciative. And I do want to talk more about your breathwork coaching and diving into that. But I just want to also point out just that journey for anybody that may be listening. It's, your own journey, your own parts to, like, we have to experience some falls. Some may be deeper than others. Some may be further. But don't forget that there's a lot of gifts to be seen down there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah,
So
the analogy that came to me during that time was like, I'd just fallen from my world triathlon, just fell to the very bottom. I was just in this pit. It was only darkness. It's just like, that's it. That I really was like, that's it. I'm not gonna have any friends. I'm not gonna have any more family. Like, everything's done. And when I was down there and on that bike ride, it was through all the people I met that, like, everyone I met, they don't know who you are. They judge you based on how you treat them. And it was like, that's when I started to be like, wow, there's a whole nother world here where I've fallen. And it's a better world. It's a bigger world. Because I was just up in this little small cloud thinking that this is all that there is. Accomplishments, success, pushing, your body. And then you realize you've fallen into the actual world of relationships and people and beauty and, not being stuck by your unconscious, like, drive for success. Yeah.
And the beauty of trying to hold on to that old small cloud, that old world of, like, I can't deviate from my plan. I can't deviate this. I have to push, to letting go. And that process that you learned to let go and just let things unfold as they needed to. And trust.
Still learning that. Still learning, right?
Oh,
like it's constantly, it's daily. It's like, okay, let go, trust, let go and trust. It's like, not force. I'm not going to force this. I can let go and trust. And the more you do it, like, the more I'm doing it, it's like, the more I trust it and the more I trust life,
It's so true. And that's why I think your story so beautifully shapes that process. And, actually, I believe that's a good segue into the breath work, that letting go, letting and trusting that you'll get through this, that you know how to get through this, and that letting go, that constant in and out cycle, in with what you need to absorb the beauty of the world, and letting go of the things you can't control.
Yeah, I love that analogy too. It's so simple and it's effective. Whatever we breathe in, right? Like, that is energy. That is our energy. When we breathe in, all of our cells need oxygen. But when you intentionally breathe in and you're like, wow, I'm breathing in all the good things in this world, your cells listen, and you breathe out everything you don't need. If more people just did that simple breath, once a day, right? But breath work to me, because I had this amazing kind of crazy, almost psychedelic experience with breath work, and I didn't understand any of it. That got me curious. So, fast forward from that trip, another probably 5, 6 months, I was back in Colorado, and then was looking at breathwork courses online. Found one, and it was basically pranayama based. And so I did want to learn the ancient, where it came from, what those practices are like. It was a 2 month course, and it was really good because you had to film yourself and do practicals and send in videos, and it taught you how to be an instructor. It also taught you, you know, or like high level, like what this does for the nervous system, this versus that. And his philosophy was always about, yes, these crazy experiences are cool and attract people into breathwork, but actually the slower and subtle experiences are more powerful. It's like really getting in tune on the subtle layers of the body, the mind, and having that separation from the mind and the body. And so that has led me to a lot of different practices of my own self, but then also realizing, like, how do I approach my parents or brothers or friends about breath work or triathletes? Because this is completely, hippie woo woo stuff at the moment. The one that I went to in Nicaragua. So I had to learn the language. Right. So then you study Patrick McEwen's books and talks about the science and what's happening on a physiological level. And you can then, explain what's actually happening with carbon dioxide and, hypocapnia, alkalizing the body or acidifying the body based on breath and what's going on at the cellular level. And so from that, that was all my studies in college, was health science, and I've always studied the body. So love diving into and finding real science that backs up breath work in a way that I can explain it to people. Because I see breath work as only growing to everyone, because we use it in every day and everyone can use it, whether you're, just normal suburban person or working in a corporate job or need to like boost their energy or reduce anxiety. Like, you don't have to go dance under the full moon and to do breath work. It can be fun. It is fun, but it's not always for everyone. And so that's really where I got like diving into breath work, and I started doing workshops at the Denver Sports Recovery Center, really going into like working with athletes. This is what you can do to improve your performance. And then that led me into working at Traverse Fitness, where I lead the performance breathwork classes. Then gaining still in real estate, really, that was my full focus last year. But then I started to gain the confidence and experience of coaching. And now I'm starting to lead more groups outside of the sauna as well, which you came to, which was awesome. And so there's a lot out there with breathwork. I'm always excited to do it and to share that with other people.
Yeah. And I want to be able to also say, what are maybe a few things that you can do simply on your own for breath work for those that are listening, that may just allow some of that inhalation of beauty and letting go? Is there any certain places that we should focus on? Is it maybe extending breath out? Is it just some places that we can think on if we're just maybe at home?
Yeah, that's great. Practical, quick breathwork exercises that a friend texted me. She's like, I have a headache. What breathwork exercise can I do? And I was like, 5 minutes of 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. It's a coherent breathing, and according to scientific research, a 5 in, 5 out count, which is 6 breaths a minute, is the ideal breath count to oxygenate the body and the tissues in the body. So that was like, okay, so usually headaches are lack of oxygen, something's going on in there. And that worked within 4 minutes for my friend.
Wow.
So it's very simple, very powerful when you start to realize we are breathing too much. My watch tells me right now, my front screen, I'm averaging 13 breaths a minute. Throughout the day, you're averaging anywhere from 12 to 16 breaths a minute. That's 20 to 25,000 breaths a day. And so you realize It's a lot of breathing. We do a lot of breathing. But even taking the time to just spend a few minutes at 6 breaths a minute, 5 in, 5 out. What happens then is we accumulate a little bit, not a crazy amount, because we're not like breath holding, but carbon dioxide levels start to rise in the body. And as that happens, there's hemoglobins, which are red blood cells floating around in your blood. Well, they grab onto the oxygen that you breathe. So they grab onto it and they hold it, and it's circulating in the body. So we have a lot of oxygen right now just being held in our blood cells. And so if you just breathe a lot, like you're not going to necessarily oxygenate your tissue and your organs, your brain, because the hemoglobins only release their oxygen in the presence of carbon dioxide. So in the presence of carbon dioxide, now hemoglobins are going to release oxygen out into the tissues and the muscles and the organs and the brain and the eyes. So that's where, on a chemical level, we can see when you breathe too much, you're getting rid of carbon dioxide. And normally we breathe too much. And so just taking a few moments a day to let those carbon dioxide levels rise in the body, we start to oxygenate the body, tissue, reduce inflammation. And carbon dioxide actually is a parasympathetic activates. So it starts to get you out of fight or flight, brings you down to your body, grounded, safe. And so, yeah, you can use that to calm you down, reduce anxiety, improve focus, improve recovery, improve oxygen levels in the body. Very simple. And it's so simple that it's like, why would I do that? Well, it's effective. 5 minutes of it can really make an impact.
Incredible. I didn't know all of that, especially the carbon dioxide part, that it's required to release oxygen, but it makes sense because that's what gets carried out. That's what replaces gets carried out. Yeah.
It's called the O2 affinity levels. And so the oxygen affinity to release is impacted by blood pH in the blood and carbon dioxide. And so there's some cool stuff being worked on in San Diego, trying to get that onto real-time tracking and then get it onto your devices. So you'd be able to like see real time, okay, I need to slow down breath to improve oxygen affinity. Anyway, that could be the future.
That's cool.
I would be excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll add it to the new Apple Watch, next year.
I would say go get rid of your Apple Watch. Apple Watch is not good. Garmin's, Coros, they're all far better technology.
Yeah.
Tracking sleep, HRV, Oura rings. I always meticulously track that stuff.
Yeah. I love the science connection that you brought into in the explanation, because that helps break it down to exactly what is happening. What's these reactions? But also going back to that breath, that's slowing down, when you're focused for those 5 minutes on just the 5-second countdown, making sure you're hitting that also will shift your focus away from maybe certain other attributes in your life that are trying to take over the mind, certain thoughts. So now you're allowing yourself to meditate at the same time while doing breath work.
Yes. Meditation is the silent benefit of breath work. Because I don't explicitly tell everyone we're going to go meditate. Yeah. But it is, because it's called single pointed meditation. When you focus on one thing very intently, that is a meditation. And I would say that would be the place to start for everyone, because being in a place of no thoughts, zero thoughts, is like the highest level. Meditation takes years of training. Like most of us, all of us, myself included, to just focus on one thing very intently, which in that case for me is the breath, or counting of the breath, because then there's nothing else. I'm not thinking about anything else.
Right.
And so that is really a powerful tool to get out of your mind into your body by really having that concentrated focus.
Yeah. And it's fascinating what could be released, because it's that mind-body connection, since instead of just staying up here, now you're in here, but also connecting with that because you're just allowing that to happen. So, wow. Great story. Great facts. How can people find you? If they want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about breath work.
Right now, I think the best place is on my Instagram page. It's Colin Chartier. Very simple. That's where I'll put in offerings, whether I have any retreats coming up or one day events, weekly classes. You can always DM me. I'll share whatever I have going on.
Awesome. And as a part of this podcast, I always like to ask, what is one last piece of advice you would like to give anybody listening out there? Anything from what we talked about today or just anything that you have?
Okay. I would say go all in, 100% commitment, whatever you're doing. If you can't be 100%, then do something that you can be 100% committed and focused. Because like growth, the growth I've seen has been absolute commitment to the point of failure, right? Like that's the point, because you learn most from failure. And if you never 100% committed, you'll never either have success or failure.
Yeah. Yeah. And to add that, 100% committed to what feels inside of you. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we don't know what feels inside of you. So just commit anyway, and you'll find out. You'll find out if it's alignment or not, because you'll be committed, and then it'll either fall apart and you'll be like, oh, that wasn't it. And you can pivot.
Exactly. Awesome.
Cool. Well,
Beautiful.
Thanks, Phil.
Well, thank you, man. And I'm really happy to have you on. I just remember hearing your story, connecting with you, and I was like, this is something worth sharing. And everything that you've been learning too with breath work and wellness and these areas that you've been really taking an extreme dive into and learning the whole process of how to apply it and also explain it. And so that's what I thought was incredible. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Cool. Well, appreciate you, and great rest of your week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.